Hey, welcome back to the shop. It is after hours on this Friday evening, and it is good to see you. I got the shop locked up, so go ahead and grab yourself a nice drink, get comfortable, grab a sketch pad if you like to, or your tablet, and let's talk. So today's art is going to be another monster redesign for a friend of the channel, Cody 404. I'll put that up on the screen here now. And what we are going to talk about today, I think, at least start maybe talking about today, is why character flaws matter. Because I have a strong suspicion that the new God of War, Waffie, I think it's Waffie, I don't know how to pronounce it, Waffie, is going to struggle with a character that has no flaws. I've seen all the controversies today. It's like exploded today, or yesterday rather. It's exploded recently. And I just have this sinking suspicion that they're gonna ruin all the fan base. They're gonna tank it, submerge it, and drown it because they made a God of War game with no Kratos in it, or at least very briefly. You don't actually get to play it. Well, we'll see. It's not out yet. I've heard a lot of things. A lot of things that I'm very concerned with. Let's see if this lets me actually put my brush on. It's kind of being slow. Alright, so while we're doing that, I'm going to fire up some music and we're just going to chill. We're going to chill. And I'm going to hit up this monster redesign. Now, this monster's name is Waffie Bat, and it's based on a VTuber named Waffie. I think she calls herself Waffie Bean, and she is a VTuber. She's a VTuber who talks about VTuber stuff. I did watch her channel a little bit, and it's super interesting. So if you're a VTuber, into VTuber, things like that, definitely check her out. I'll link her in the description, so you can just click for your convenience. Alright, so let's do this Waffie Bat. And talk about why character flaws matter. And basically, while we're working on this monster here, I just think that flaws for your character are probably one of the more important things that you can design in your character. Like, obviously, just the general aesthetic is important, but flaws are what really makes your character. And making a character strong for strong's sake, it only really ruins the character. And it makes it difficult to actually write an interesting story. Because if you make them too strong or too perfect or win every battle or just too morally righteous all the time without an internal struggle at all, you get what is effectively Superman. And that's one of the hardest superheroes, to write for in comics. That's why you see so many movies fail at it. So many Hollywood adaptations just fail trying to figure out the core message of Superman. It's not hard to figure it out. But what's hard is trying to make something that can challenge Superman, both physically or in spirit. And really, that's why Lex Luthor exists, but a lot of people kind of mess up Lex Luthor too by just making him evil for evil's sake instead of making him a complex character, because he is a complex character. So, alright, and I know I keep saying I want to keep these videos to about an hour. I am going to try to do that again. I know sitting here and doing like a 3.5 hour Let's Draw is not something a lot of people really like to watch. And instead, we're just going to talk about character flaws and draw this Waffie Bat redesign. Alright. Now, let's see. I know the character he gave us, Cody gave us, was mostly a head with like wings attached to it, and then this little stubby body. But I think what I want to do is maybe stretch it out. And we'll make it a little, like a littler head. We're going to keep the same design. For the most part. We'll be looking down maybe a little bit. Okay, and then he drew the character with these little curvy ears or whatever, like bat ears. They're bat ears. I know mine kind of look like Raichu ears, but they're bat ears. Let me erase this bit here. Whoa, too small. Alright. Whoop. Okay, so stories, good stories anyway, are built on conflict. And the conflict matters. And what matters the most, I think, is the conflict that involves the hero's, I don't say morality, but their worldview. Because that's what it really is a worldview clash. One person wants the worldview of one way, another person wants it the other way. And so they clash. Their morals clash, their identities clash, ideologies clash. And what's important is that the conflict that comes out of that is created by these differences in worldview and whatnot. Are what provides a good climax to the story. All right, let's see. Like I said, we're gonna stretch the body a little bit. Now, it's got this design on the chest. It's like a diamond, so we'll keep that. I'm gonna move it more this way, maybe. Okay. Now the history of Waffie Bat, or the lore of Waffie Bat here, is that it takes the appearance of a bat, has eyes on its wings, and they're literally the eyes that it sees with. Because it does also have eyes on its face, but they're covered by these low-hanging bangs. So it uses the eyes on its wings to see. Alright, let's see. There was more lore. The monster is a she, so I'll try to refer to it as a she as often as I can. And it is called a Shadow Codian Quint, which is a class that Cody has made up based off of his friends. And it is part of Shadow Islet Island. So I'll look up a picture of what that looks like, and we can get that going for the background too. For now, let's go ahead and get this guy designed, or this girl designed. Okay. And it's got these kind of diamond looking feet. So we'll get that going here. But if you want to know some good examples of really good character flaws, you have to look no further than what we've been talking about seemingly since we created the channel. The Odyssey. Well, the Iliad, really. Achilles is mentioned in the Odyssey. And we do see Achilles in the underworld, but the Iliad is basically Achilles' story. Like, I know it's about... Sorry if that was loud. I know the story is technically about Menelaus getting his wife back and sending all these people to war in order to do that. But really, the story's about Achilles, and the story kind of ends after Hector's funeral, which is directly related to Achilles. Anyway, we're getting off topic. The character flaws that Achilles has, obviously, is pride and ego, and he is massively angry all the time. Oops. In fact, he's like notorious in that story for having a short fuse. Give her like these sort of anthropomorphic legs.
Anthropomorphic legs are human-like legs.
Oh, my phone's trying to talk to me in the background. Holy smokes. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. Except they're gonna be like these little points. They come to a point here because that's how Cody has it designed. They've got these diamonds on them here. I wonder what app was trying to talk to me on my phone. Was that Google or something? It's been doing that lately. I just had a system update on my phone, and now it just like it'll randomly start listening and responding to me. I don't know if I'm like saying a trigger word or something, but I don't like that. I do not care for that. Not at all. Alright, and we're going to go here to give her these little pointy little legs here. We try to imply that it's actually a joint right here and it's coming back to the back. We're going to have to make her a little smaller. Or a little too big. Because she's going to have wings, and these wings are going to be enormous. Well, not enormous, but they're going to be bigger than what we have room on this canvas for. And the reason I'm doing it on this canvas here is so that I can upload this later. In fact, it's a good thing I thought about that because I almost forgot to record the time lapse again. We are going to add this as a short. So Achilles' flaw, or major flaws, is his ego, right? And his rage. Famously, his rage. But his ego as well. It's the only reason that he even opted to be in the war, so that his name would be remembered forever and he wouldn't have to die alone and unknown and have his name forgotten after a generation. Because that was his thing, right? After a generation, no one would remember who he was if he chose to live a peaceful life. And since he didn't, he chose glory, his name will never be forgotten. But he dies young. And in the Odyssey, he is also famously disappointed in the choice he made. He would have rather lived a peaceful life alive than be dead with all the glory. Because in the story of the Odyssey, once they actually reach the area that Circe instructed Odysseus and his men to go to so that they could convene with the prophet Tiresias and get their instructions to get home. Once they get there and they see Achilles and they speak with Achilles, he never ended up making it to the Elysian fields. And the reason for that is he gave up his glory in the Elysian fields to give his cousin Patroclus his place. And he lived so that he could, and Patroclus would have a better afterlife that way. Whereas he opted instead to stay in the Asphodel Meadows and wander like a normal peasant person who dies, which is where most of the people go, is the Asphodel Meadows. Anyway, irrelevant to what we're actually talking about, but I like talking about Greek myths. Some of my favorite stories come from Greek myths, but also from the Odyssey is Odysseus. a great Greek hero, a great hero in general, right? And this is relevant because of the new movie that's coming out for the Odyssey. Both of these are. What I'm afraid they're going to do with Achilles is, I think they already said that Elliot Page is playing Achilles. Well, I'm afraid what they're going to do is make him less rageful. Or I don't even know what they're going to do. I have no clue what they're going to do with Achilles in that film. I'm worried about what they're going to do, because I think it's just going to make me mad. Because I like those Greek myths, and they're going to ruin it, like Hollywood always seems to do. But I digress. Let's grab this here, and we'll get started on wings now. Yeah, we're gonna have to shrink her a lot more. And again, the reason that I have to use the canvas that I'm using, the tall canvas rather than the wide canvas, is so that it fits on a YouTube short. Otherwise, the long canvases don't fit. So if I made this like 1920 wide by 1080 tall, or 1280 tall, it wouldn't fit. Okay, so he's got her drawn with these hook wings like this. And I don't suppose all of the wing has to fit on here, but a good portion of it should. Yeah, and I'm worried what they're going to do with Athena, with what they're going to do with Achilles, what they're going to do with Odysseus, what they're going to do with Telemachus, or Telemachus. I've heard it pronounced a bunch of different ways. I don't know what they're going to do with this film. I worry about it every day because I see it in the news all the time. Every time I turn my phone on, it seems like somebody's complaining about something new with that. And I just want it to be a faithful adaptation, you know? Okay, and then we're going to come back in. And maybe give it like these. Sort of like, I don't know. I don't know what the webbing in between the wings. Go like that. But Odysseus is also a really good Greek hero with a lot of really good flaws in his character. He's obviously a brilliant strategist. He's said on multiple times to be the smartest person in the Greek army in the Iliad and the Odyssey. And he's the one, obviously, who comes up with the Trojan horse idea. He's so clever, in fact, and he's such a good trickster that he actually befriends Athena. He doesn't get her approval, or he's not like her biggest worshiper or anything like that. Like, she legitimately sees him as a friend and almost an equal, if not absolutely an equal. So this is why, to me, I think that Zendaya is a bad cast. In no way do I think that Zendaya and Matt Damon as the grizzled war veteran, which is also kind of weird route to take Odysseus, in my opinion. He is. It just seems like a weird way to take him, because that's not ever really how he's portrayed in the Iliad that I got. You know? Make sure not to forget that she's got eyes on her wings. You can fix the designs for the eyes in a minute. I just want to make sure I get the wings in. Before we start doing other wings, because it looks like she's got 4 wings, 2 sets of wings. Okay, we've got 1 finger thing here. We'll go up. Do another finger thing up here. Because these are all like the fingers of the big wing hand. And then there. Yeah, see, I did that wrong on this side. I did it like a dragon. This is not like a dragon. These flare out in Cody's picture. So let's make sure we stay true that way. There we go. But, you know, as a trickster, he's obviously deceptive. And that's to friends and foes. He is the one who actually kind of tricks Achilles into showing up. Or, when I say trick, he manipulates Achilles into even bothering to show up for the war. You see, Achilles' mom, Thetis, is extremely protective of her child. And pretty much had him convinced, even though he was the greatest warrior in all of the Greek armies, and basically in all of the world, she had him convinced to actually stay and live the peaceful life. It was Odysseus who fooled him into thinking that there was great glory for him in the war. That he actually enlisted Achilles, Patroclus, and his Myrmidon army to fight with the Greeks against Troy for no other reason than glory. They didn't care about Helen. They didn't care about Sparta. They didn't care. It was certainly not about Agamemnon. Achilles was notorious for despising Agamemnon, and the other way around as well. This wing is just like higher up. I need to bring it down. Lower it down to like there. Try to give it the same little angle it's got on the other side. Okay. But Achilles' major flaw, Odysseus, similar to Achilles. Odysseus' major flaw is also ego. He's all sorts of arrogant. And the arrogance gets him into a lot of trouble. I may have to shrink those wings a little bit, actually. We want to make sure we can fit the 2 sets of wings. There we go. Maybe we can like flare it up. Like that. So it looks like maybe she's stopped to intimidate. Or whatever. There we go. We can probably flare that one a little bit too. And then we've got the eye on the second little web here. And the eyelashes on Cody's design always point out. We'll go with that. And then we could just imply that this second wing is behind that one. And it looks like she's got fingers on the ends of these as well. So for these bottom wings, we'll be able to see those better. And they're curvy, like, kind of little mustaches, I guess. There we go. Other notable character flaws that are important to character development is like Batman's inability to let the past go. He refuses to allow anyone to be harmed the same way he was as a child. And so his pursuit of justice is absolute and unerring. Oops. Although in most media, Batman is the moral compass of the group in a lot of different situations, he brings the realist's point of view. Where Superman is always like the Boy Scout, right? In situations where Superman kind of falters and they tend to draw him as more of a villain, it's always Batman's morality that keeps the rest of the team grounded. So there's that. Plus, Spider-Man is another good one. His just extreme guilt for what happened to Uncle Ben keeps him moving forward and feeling like he should be responsible for everyone's safety. Like it's his responsibility to make sure nobody else ever gets hurt. These eyes down here. And then the eyelashes pointing out. Pointing out. Good. Alright. I wonder if we need to maybe make the, well, for sure the star needs to be bigger. This little diamond shape needs to be bigger. Oops, we cut off some of his chin. Or some of her chin. Fix that. Easy enough. Alright, and we can toy around with the mouth a little bit. And at the second pass phase, maybe make the legs a little bigger. Maybe. Oh, that's too big. Something like that. Alright. Now, with every system that designs a flawed character, there's always people who think that simple is the best. A lot of times I see online people saying that why don't we just have villains who are evil for the sake of being evil? Sometimes that's okay, but sometimes that's not okay too. Sometimes you do need a more complex villain than just bad guy for bad guy's sake. Right, but not all of your villains have to be like morally complex or understandable in weird ways or sympathetic. Sympathetic villains are getting kind of old. Twist villains are getting kind of old too. Like, sure, make a villain evil for evil's sake, but give them a good reason to do it. Like, hey, good guys don't get the power that bad guys get, and I just wanted to rule the world. Or whatever. You know, give them a reason. They're not just evil because they're, devil or something. Make them actually legit. Man, I wish these canvases worked sideways. I wish YouTube would accept that. They do not, though. and that's unfortunate. Let's see. I mean, that's pretty much the design of the character. Except they got this eye actually has an X on it. If we're gonna follow it the way that he has designed it, got like that X, like the character from Has Been Hotel, the angel character. What's her name, Vaggie or something? Some horrible name. I don't even want to tell you what it's named after. They say it in the show, but like, ugh. What a cringe way to name a character, man. Alright, so we need to look up Shadow Islet Island. Or Shadow Islet. Yeah, because I don't know what that looks like. And I haven't made it that far in my game. I think I'm still, like, I'm on the first zone for sure. And I have not even looked at what the next area is. Though, to be fair, I think I play it maybe once or twice a day. And I think you're supposed to, at least at first, you're supposed to be playing it, like, constantly. I'm never going to get off the first island at this rate. Alright, so this one is also a hand. The crystal islet or whatever that we did last time was also a hand. This is a hand. But it's more purples, as you might expect. No crystals, though. Well, obviously there's no crystals. It just looks like it's kind of purple with a big swirl in the background. Let's make another layer, and we can really quickly do this. Waffie bat's gonna be flying, so I think what we'll do instead is like we'll just make the ground below like that purple-y thing that kind of like goes down. It almost looks like grass. Like this here. And you know, with Superman, you've got the issue of power scaling. A lot of people think in order to write Superman well, you have to give him a physically challenging character, and that's true sometimes. But that's not always true. So what ends up happening is we get these villains who are just insanely powerful, and they outscale everyone else in the DC universe very quickly, such as Darkseid, or what is his name now? I forget his name. I forget what its name is. Holy cow, man. I'm gonna tell him out of it tonight. But the creature that Darkseid made to challenge Superman specifically, that adapts to him every single time. Ugh. That's gonna bother me until I figure it out. Oh man. Let me Google it and see if I can figure it out real quick. Doomsday. God, I don't know why I couldn't remember that name. Holy monk. So Doomsday. They create characters like Darkseid or Doomsday that challenge Superman like to the maximum, or even, you know, to some degree Lobo is a good match for Superman, or, you know, any magical character Superman seems to have problems with. And then we'll just make the background like, no, come here. She's flying, so. we can probably come through on the second pass now. Is that not working? Nope. Hold on. There it goes. Okay. We're going to do red for the second pass. Good. Alright. Now, one of the bigger complaints I've seen about the boys, at least as far as like legitimate complaints that aren't just like, this is woke trash, which is true. I mean, to some degree, the entire plot after season 1 seems to be an anti-Trump campaign. But once you get through that, if you really critique the show and ignore that aspect of it, the major complaint that I hear is that they made Homelander too powerful, and they wrote themselves into a corner and had no way to get themselves out without, you know, a Deus Ex Machina, which is what ended up being the Kimiko depowering Homelander by using the chest beam or whatever. So I understand that, and I think that's a problem that you have to resolve. If you make your characters too strong, lots of things can happen. For one, you lose all stakes. It's like, how are they supposed to beat this guy? Like, in the universe, using lore and logic that has been established for this intellectual property, how are they supposed to defeat this guy? Like, he's so all-powerful. And if the writer cannot come up with a good way to do that, then you automatically lose all stakes, because now you have to write a Deus Ex Machina in order to do that. Whoa. We were supposed to go red. And we were also supposed to do a new layer. Here we go. Maybe I should just do the teeth first or something, then do the bottom. Here we go. We can make the bottom of the mouth after that. There we go. Yeah, but that's just one example. In the comic, it's way better done. It's done so much better in the comic. Because Garth Ennis is actually a good writer. And whoever wrote The Boys after season 1 is not. I would even argue that season 1, The Boys, doesn't demonstrate writing competency. But it was a good season for the show, and it was, at first, it was a pretty decent show, and I was excited to see where I was going to go. But, you know, in the comic, they had Black Noir as Homelander's clone, and he was specifically designed to kill Homelander in case Homelander went crazy, which is exactly what didn't happen. Well, so Black Noir made Homelander go sort of crazy by framing him for doing all sorts of things he didn't actually do. Now, Homelander was a psychopath to begin with in that. So he's not, like, innocent. But still, at least there was a well thought out plan on how to get rid of Homelander in the comic world, in that universe. It was, they already had a failsafe in case Homelander went off the rails, and it was just a clone Homelander that was loyal to the U.S. government. But by the time Black Noir actually stepped in to kill Homelander, the U.S. government was basically destroyed. And so, and it also turned out that Homelander was much stronger than they anticipated, and he nearly killed Black Noir in the conflict, which is what allowed Butcher and the Marines to basically light Black Noir up on the lawn of the White House, and we get the iconic scene of Butcher, tearing Black Noir's brain out, his skull. Brutal. We want to make sure that this character looks feminine. It's supposed to be a girl. So we want to make sure that we're actually making it look like it's a girl and not like it is unclear or too masculine. So we'll really try to focus on curves and gentle features. Alright. And then, again, I did check out Waffie Bean's. I think it's at Waffie, at Waffie, but she calls herself Waffie Bean. I did check out her channel, and I think she gives her character that little nose. And this character is based on that VTuber. We'll give these little soft frills around here, maybe. Like neck frills or something. Okay. The arm is gonna come like this. Here we go. Dragon Ball is another franchise or IP that has this serious issue with power scaling and what a lot of people call power creep, which means is it starts edging out other characters in favor of making stronger characters to be able to challenge how strong the main character has gotten. And in Dragon Ball, specifically Dragon Ball Z, and now kind of Dragon Ball Super, they have to find different ways to make powerful villains that are more powerful than the ones that came before. This is going to be just filled in black. But also find ways to have Goku still be able to overcome the challenge. So when they fought Raditz, initially he was way stronger than Goku and Piccolo combined, and it took Gohan's efforts to weaken him as a baby, plus Goku and Piccolo working together but sacrificing Goku's life in order to bring Raditz down. We go from that immediately into Vegeta and Nappa, who are, allegedly multiplication stronger than Raditz, which is insane because Raditz was like by far the strongest thing they've ever fought. And these guys are like significantly more powerful. And they go from that to Frieza, who is like insanely more powerful than that. And then they go into Cell, who is somehow even more powerful than Frieza, even though now they're back on Earth and they're fighting more Red Ribbon Army stuff, which is Cell, Red Ribbon Army. The androids were built. You could argue that Cell technically has Frieza's DNA, and that's why Cell can be that strong, and I would accept that. But that does not describe androids 17 and 18, or even 16. Right? Because they don't have Frieza's DNA or Saiyan DNA to get stronger the way Cell does. They're just androids that Dr. Gero built. And back in the day, the androids that Dr. Gero built, were all like significantly weaker by comparison. Like so much weaker, it's actually kind of mind-blowing how he came up with these designs for 17 and 18 that were absolutely leagues beyond the ones from the original Dragon Ball comic, manga, and show. Right? Crazy. The difference in power scaling. But all that does is Piccolo, at the end of Dragon Ball, Piccolo was the strongest villain they had faced, right? Then we get into Dragon Ball Z, and we've got Raditz into Nappa and Vegeta, into Frieza, into Cell, into Boo. And Boo is like a galactic threat. Just easily wiping out planets. Effortlessly. Matter of fact, Boo was so psychotic and apparently hated Earth so much, he destroyed the entire planet, then ran to the afterlife to try and kill them all again. Insane. But Goku still always finds a way to get through them, and I will say that Boo, in particular, is an interesting way they did it. With the Spirit Bomb, it actually finally works, for once. And all the times up to that, it actually failed to kill its intended target. But Goku managed to make it work against Kid Buu. So there was that. So power scaling is an issue because now it seems like the only way that Goku and Vegeta can get stronger is by acquiring a new transformation. And that's what Dragon Ball Super has become, is the parade of transformations, right? Because Gohan now has transformations, Piccolo has transformations, so they just make them characters, the fan favorite characters, at least relevant again. So you have to be very careful with how you work power scaling. If it's like your protagonist starts off kind of weak and they get stronger over time, parading in new, more powerful villains is a work of art to make it so that it's not power creep, and that you're not making it so that you have to actually create circumstances for your character to get power-ups that don't make sense in the universe in order to overcome the challenge. Now, sometimes it doesn't matter, because a lot of times the story is like secondary to the visuals. Right, Dragon Ball never really had a great story. Or Dragon Ball Z, rather. Dragon Ball was just an adventure of a bunch of friends trying to collect the Dragon Balls for wishes. You know. I need to make this maybe a little bigger. Dragon Ball Z was just like the relentless onslaught of enemies attacking Goku, specifically. Well, not specifically. I shouldn't say that, because Frieza didn't have any intention of fighting Goku at all. I didn't even know who Goku was until Goku showed up and punched him in the nose. He was just there trying to steal Dragon Balls. And Goku just happened to show up and stop him. But after that, it was like the relentless onslaught of people who just don't like Goku. Like Raditz was there for Goku. Vegeta and Nappa showed up to get the Dragon Balls and to destroy Earth's warriors. Which turned out to be, well, Goku in the end, because they killed basically everyone else. And then Dragon Ball Super is just like an endless battle shonen manga, which is fine. That's all Dragon Ball ever really was about the fights. The lore mattered much less. They couldn't even keep Goku's dad straight forever. Bardock has had, I think, 2 different retcons, maybe, in Dragon Ball. Or Dragon Ball Z, and then Dragon Ball Super. They gave him his own movie and then retconned it in Dragon Ball Super and gave him a different origin that's more like Superman than it already was. Which is insane. So, yeah, you just have to be careful with power creep. Otherwise, your stakes start getting messy. All of your characters' power starts getting messy. You're trying to figure out how strong one character actually is in relation to another character. And nobody likes to be trapped in that. Especially writers don't like to be trapped in that area. So you do have to be really careful how you writing your power scaling and power creep and whatnot. So, but at least in Dragon Ball Z, we will say, in Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball, Goku always had a core character motivation, and that was always to be the strongest fighter out there. He loved to fight, and he wanted to fight stronger people. And that was what drove Goku. It was his greatest attribute, but it was also his greatest flaw. Seeking out constantly stronger foes is really what put the Earth in danger in the first place. And it's that arrogance to want to see the strongest a person can get that constantly jeopardized fights. And people laugh and say he's stupid for letting this guy transform, but that's Goku's character flaw that they ended up adopting as like a Saiyan, a generic Saiyan character flaw. They will always fight the strongest being there is to fight. And if that means allowing them to transform, then so be it. And notoriously, this is why Cell was able to transform into Perfect Cell. Because Vegeta wanted to fight someone stronger. He trained for a long time in the hyperbaric time chamber. Or the hyperbolic time chamber. And easily handled imperfect Cell. Or semi-perfect Cell. And he needed a challenge. He wanted a different challenge. So he allowed semi-perfect Cell to absorb Android 18, and become Perfect Cell. But then, again, we get Cell on this level that is just insane. Like, easily would have handled Frieza. Had Frieza ever come to Earth, Cell could have just wiped the floor with him. And then they overpowered Frieza, because I think Toriyama actually likes Frieza. Like, that's like his favorite villain that he's ever created. If I had to venture a guess. I don't know if he's ever actually said that is or not. But if I had to venture a guess, I'd say the amount of effort he puts into what he used to put, because he's passed away, unfortunately, that he's put into making Frieza relevant long after Frieza was dead initially, it's insane. Okay, so she's also got like hooks on the back of her wings. Like this. Or like spikes or blades. I'll make them more like blades. Like if she gets you with these, you're going to be seeing two different parts of you. They're pointing in. They all point in. There we go. Now, the best I can see, I don't think she has a tail. Which is fine, because I don't think most bats don't have tails anyway, so works out. Okay, we'll mute that. And then it looks like kind of the idea of the shadow islet is like a swirling vortex in the background. Where are we on time? We're 55 minutes. So I think we've got the character design here mostly done. I will try to continue feminizing it, because these harsh angles are not going to work for, well, maybe they will. Like, we can, I guess, add like feminine features to her, but I don't want to go crazy with that because that's not in the original design. I did want to expand her though. That's why I kind of made her body longer, her head a little bit smaller, to make her, since she was based on the VTuber, I wanted to make her kind of resemble that VTuber a little bit more closely. Not that it doesn't do a good job of that before, because it's a very good design initially, and I may have just like gone way too crazy with it. But we'll do that. So what I'll do then, since the video, we gotta kind of try to end the video here pretty soon. What I'll do is I'll make a swirling vortex in the background here. And it's just like everything comes around this like circle in the middle. You know, like this, and it kind of glows. But in My Singing Monsters, Shadow Islet is like blue, kind of a bluish in here, and then it goes out to purple, and then outside the purple is like a red, I guess, where it's like a thundering, storming, whatever out here. And we can kind of make it like everything is swirling towards this vortex type of deal. And then the ground down here, we can just make it that, you know, that burgundy color or whatever. We'll get the blue back. And then the islet can, you know, we can have the islet come up here. And she's just kind of flying anyway, so we'll give her a little bit of a shadow down here. And I will get that inked and colored, and I will have that on release for before this video. So before this video comes out, the short with the speed paint should come out in addition to the picture coming up on my YouTube channel. So I'll release the picture. I think those usually go out about 12:30 in the afternoon. And then the shorts always come out around 7, and the longer videos at 9. So, and I always record these the night before. So if I made reference that it's Friday, it's because I'm anticipating this coming out Friday, which is for you today. But it was recorded for you the night before, so Thursday night. Anyway, one of the things that I think we're going to cut back on now, just so everyone kind of knows, if you stuck around this long, you're dedicated, I appreciate it. I'm happy to let you know what the channel's doing. I'm cutting back on daily shorts. Not that I don't like doing them, or I'm stressed out or anything, or I'm like, oh my god, I have to work so much. I do work a lot. And I do have to deal with family and kids and stuff like that. So I am limited on time. And often the speed paints that are like 15 seconds long take me an hour or two to get done. And that chews through all of the time that I would be spending learning animation or making comics. So we're cutting back on the shorts, the daily shorts. And then we're going to be releasing more in-depth content, more legit content. So more comics and soon animations to the channel. So it'll be less maybe of these videos, even though we'll still do these videos where we can do processes or shop talks like this, where we just talk about good stories or what's going on in the world of entertainment. And we'll fulfill, these subscriber requests where they've got stuff that they'd like redrawn in my style. We can do that too. No worries. But we'll also put out the other content. I do have a lot of plans, so I'm going to try to make as much time as possible for them. Like I said before, I just don't have time to do that during the day. The only time I really get to do stuff like this is after everyone's gone to bed. So here we are. At any rate, if you stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. Give the video a like, subscribe, comment. Helps the algorithm. I appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see ya.